Trying to fix it right now.
No worries. Thank you, Anthony. Oh, I see it. I see the new link.
Social media is probably, I mean, all that has to be redone. So,
okay.
But the feed, the live broadcast should be streaming, and the audio is fixed.
All right. All right. Can you guys go ahead and talk, Jenny or Yarrow, Jesse, Clayton? One of you guys.
Microphone check 1 2 1 2.
All right. If you're in the chat,
3
if you're
4
in the
3
chat,
4.
let us know if you can hear everybody.
Who's the gremlin voice we hear? Oh, that's Tony. That's production.
All right. All right.
Can
All
you
right.
guys
Sweet.
hear me?
Yeah, they hear you. They
Cool.
say
So let's
seems
go
all
back to
good
my
now.
complaints about DoorDash.
Yeah.
One, I don't see them being able to operate a cashless system.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I don't see them being able to meet all the burdens that are required for a compliant delivery. Three, their banking's gonna fucking probably have to. It's gonna definitely have to change because whatever random major bank they're banking with is not gonna take cannabis-related business funds.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guarantee you their banking system is federally insured. And 3, 4, however many we're on right now, I've got a lot of problems with this. This fucking sucks for us as an industry. This is just another company who's already bigger, already got a larger delivery platform saying, oh, look, it's my turn.
I mean, this essence is everything that Ease wanted to be.
Yeah, and E screwed up a lot of other people's licenses because they too did not know how to run a compliant business, and they did not own their licenses. They operated off of other operators' licenses. So they left people with tax problems, they left people with track and trace problems, they left people with a lot of issues. So that's how this goes bad.
Interesting.
Are they going to end up dealing with the same
What's that, Clayton?
issues, though?
Say that again.
Will they end up dealing with the same banking issues, though? I mean, if they're just doing hemp, like, they can run that with credit cards because it's federally legal. Bill, like, they're not going to have to deal with the same compliance that we have to, which again speaks to it being unfair to the regulated traditional licensed cannabis industry.
Right? You know what? I don't necessarily agree that it's unfair, because if people in the regulated cannabis industry want to get into the hemp market, they have the ability to do so too.
Well, I think we got a couple things here, and I'd love to just riff, ramble, and rant for a second.
Oh boy, here we go. Give him a soapbox.
Even though you made a whiny voice when you quoted the person from Mango, and I have no affiliation with them, I've never done business with them, don't know them.
I made a whiny voice, huh?
Yeah, you kind of made a whiny intonation. You sort of channeled your inner like Karen, as if this person was just complaining. And I don't necessarily think that's fair, Jason, because I completely agree with everything in that quote from that person. I also think that it doesn't mean that people shouldn't try to participate in the hemp market, but until we have parity between hemp and cannabis, until we lessen the regulations of cannabis and increase the regulations on hemp, there will be this disparity that does make those two markets very different, very unfair, different regulations, different costs of business, different tax structures, and as Clayton was saying, different regulatory hurdles in respects to banking and a variety of other things. And I don't necessarily think that that's fair. In the meantime, I encourage people to put a toe in both waters, right? But I do agree with what the Mango person said, and Ease can. I'm sorry.
You agree with Mango's?
DoorDash DoorDash can step into this, and I thought it was funny that in the press release or the quote from them, they used the word Ease, because I was wondering if they spelled it EAZE. But I think that we know it's not the first time that a company is looking to establish an economy of scale opportunity, a company that's already touching the consumer. And I think there's a couple ways to look at it. I agree with Jenny. I know, hard for me to admit to the viewers, but I yet again agree with Jenny that you know, it's unfair for a company that's already well positioned to try to come in and Pac-Man up market share and take advantage of their existing infrastructure outside of cannabis. But I also think there's an alternative perspective that might hopefully equally be as true, which is that a large company like this could grow the market for smaller companies, albeit with much narrower margins. But could we get out to those people that are canna curious, that aren't going to dispensaries, that haven't had a great delivery experience with a company that maybe is no longer in business and they had a vape cart they couldn't return or whatever. So there's that. But I also totally agree with Jenny again that this company doesn't probably understand what it's trying to bite off and chew, and that everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth, right? And here I am quoting Tyson.
Everybody got a
instead of
plan.
promoting
Yep.
Tyson. And I think
It's your favorite brand.
I'm shifting on him, right?
I love it. You're
America
evolving.
loves a comeback.
Yeah.
And so I think that, here they are trumpeting their premature potential successes. And I don't think that anybody should get too excited because I think it's going to be the implementation and execution more than the ideation that ultimately defines whether this is a successful idea or not.
Well, there's something that's unclear to me, and maybe someone else caught it. It kept saying that it's going to serve CBD and THC products.
Yeah. So hemp,
does
like
that mean
THCA.
straddle
THCA.
Does it mean THCA?
Yeah, that's what it means. THCA.
It means
so they were miswriting, miswriting that.
Delta 8, Delta 9 products. That's what it means.
They weren't miswriting it. They were specifically not including a lack of specificity.
Right. Yeah. So these are all hemp products. So they're not going to have a problem with banking, first of all, if it's all hemp products. So that's just a non sequitur. It's not really going to matter for them. And then on the flip side, being worried about, if this is going to harm operators that are unwilling to pivot and change, be willing to pivot and change. And take advantage of this very large expansion of a market. If you have a hemp product right now and you can do a deal with DoorDash, and you're in a market like LA or San Francisco or any of the big cities, you're in the house. So you should start moving that direction and stop complaining about it and just go.
I mean, that's great for brands, right? But what if you're a chain of retail stores? You don't get to participate that.
Part of brand. If you have a chain of retail stores, you should already have your own in-house brands and you should be able to launch them. And if you're in cannabis and you're not already thinking about hemp, you're just not paying attention.
I mean, in markets like, California, Colorado, places like this where you have these large retail presence where you can buy wholesale product on the market for cheap. Why do you have to have an in-house brand, right? You can just simply be a retailer.
You can.
I agree with you.
You can simply be a retailer.
It's a short-sighted play, in my opinion, but yeah, you can.
I think you should be looking at the hemp industry if you are a brand in the space. But I think the problem here is that we have two sides of an industry that are the exact same plant that have completely different regulations, right? And the fact of the matter is that that has to change. There needs to be some something that brings these two things together. Otherwise, we're just cannibalizing our own business, right?
Clayton, I agree with you, and everybody up here does 100%. However, the reality is as it is. So we can sit and complain and go and whine about how it's not the way that we want it to be, or we could start to make movements and also work on what you're talking about, which is preeminently important, which is, yes, this should be unified. Dr. Talleyrand on Fridays always says this is type 1, type 2, type 3 cannabis. We should completely recategorize everything of how we even look at cannabis and hemp and marijuana. And you have the complications of cannabis and hemp and marijuana. Those three words are legal terms in federal law. So when we refer to those things, they relate in law, and they relate in ways that most people, even cannabis experts, are not really that aware of. So we're playing all these things against each other, and it's not fun and it's not good. So I'm agreeing with you is my point.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think that this, though, however, is DoorDash getting into the hemp side of the industry is a pretty massive indicator that this isn't going anywhere, right? Especially from a regulatory perspective. I know in our line of work, I work for an investment fund here in the industry, and we've been watching hemp incredibly closely. We've been getting really smart on the space. We've been doing that for the last 2 years. We had to make an investment, but working on a couple different ones in our pipeline right now. And I love this space, and the numbers are hard to ignore. But one of the big things that we've always been confused about is this regulatory shoe going to drop eventually, right? And, we see large alcohol distributors getting into the space, and now with DoorDash getting into the space, I think that's a pretty big indicator that this is here to stay. So it would be, I think it's it's interesting, and I think that there is a lot. And like we encourage our portfolio companies who are brands to all have started participating in the hemp space. Like we are doing that. I would like to see some sort of continuity between the two, right? Moving forward, if they are going to continue down this path of like products being available everywhere, and like I would like to see like the traditional cannabis market being able to play by similar rules as well.
Well, and we need bipartisan farm bill that doesn't attach a bunch of trailers to it that have nothing to do with farming, that isn't too partisan.
What do you have against trailers?
They're trailer trash, okay? And they typically have nothing to do with the name of the bill or the topics that the name suggests are in the bill. And they usually are, these little pork belly plays for somebody who's got too much influence, needs to bring back a project to their district. I think the farm bill, it's long overdue. We can blame both the Republicans and the Democrats. It should have gotten renewed under Biden. It didn't. I don't know that Trump is going to prioritize it with all of the saber rattling and crazy headline grabbing suggestions that seem to just come out of his mouth unchecked and unvetted. And until we have an update to the farm bill, it's really unfair on both the hemp and cannabis industry. Guidelines, things that we can understand, things that are reasonable, things that are industry supporting, and things that are age restricted and supply chain safety procedures makes a lot of sense. And until we start regulating cannabinoids based on whether they're intoxicating or non-intoxicating, not which plant they came from, I think we're going to continue to see problems. Now, within those problems, there's opportunity. And like Jesse said, there are opportunities for people in the regulated cannabis space to have a toehold in hemp. And we've seen that more with brands than retailers. And, Jesse, to your point about the retailers, yeah, that's true. But if any of those retailers has had a supply chain white labeling issue trying to bring a house brand to market, they may be really, really gun shy to try to do that again in under-regulated hemp, merely to expand the footprint of their brand and to hope to capture their customers who are buying from the hemp market. Mm-hmm. So, and any idea takes time and money, right? And so anybody can say, yeah, I'm open to it, but unless they've got the resources to actually implement that, it's just going to stay in the idea phase, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately, business is hard. It's like in order to do these things, you have to fight, and you have to fight, especially in cannabis. Cannabis is one of the hardest industries possible to be in. And staying power takes resilience, and it takes being willing to pivot at any time. And sometimes you're eating rice and beans. And I know I've been one of those people, and I've been with a lot of those people when they're in the middle of just going through the shit. And California in general is full of that. So it's hard. Nothing I'm saying is easy, and I totally get it. It's a little harsh pill to just say, hey, wake up and just get to work and do it. But that's also the reality. It's like that has to be how it is.
We're on fire. Be nice.
I know, dude. I know. But it's just being in the cannabis industry is very difficult. It's not for the faint of heart in any way. And this is another example.
Speaking of the faint of heart, we got
just fucking called the police on somebody who used DoorDash to fucking deliver weed. Right? They ordered that shit from like whatever it was, the burrito, and the burrito had weed in it, and they fucking snitched on the person. So that's fucking weird.
Someone got the wrong order.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. But I don't know. I think that this is just going to be really interesting. And those things that Yarrow was referring to as trailers are actually called riders. So those of you that don't know at home, just a little.
Oh, riders. Fair enough. We're gonna roll into a commercial, and we are gonna be right back, you guys. So you guys hear me right now over the commercial in the chat?
Are you all ready for America's new #1 D9?
I'm not seeing anybody say anything.
That's right. We are bringing to you Parody Gummy.
Yeah,
These vegan gummies are
you guys do hear me.
in a safe harbor facility.
Interesting.
So they're going to be clean and safe.
All right, we're going to fix that.
They're not going to give you any of the runaround. Coming in, we have 3
Do you guys hear Jesse talking?
Flavors for you. We have the Raspberry Riots. Also, we have the Sleepy Joes if you need something to help you sleep at night. And if you're feeling like raging and having a party time, that's right, we have the pineapple bad hombre. If you're feeling like a bad hombre, make sure you head over to www.parodygummy.com and secure your bag today.
Thank you for that, Jenny, because I was today's years old when I learned that. So
apparently they're only hearing me in the chat. They're only hearing me out there during the commercial. They're not hearing you guys. Interesting. We're gonna figure this out and make it better tomorrow. But nonetheless, coming up next is Mr. Clayton Skulski. That's right, Clayton Skulski. Huh? Skulski, son of a fucking bitch. Sorry, Clayton Skulski is an investment associate at Key Investment Partners, a leading cannabis focused private equity fund. And before going into the financing side of the industry, Clayton was a cannabis operator, educator, and consultant in the Colorado cannabis industry. He began his cannabis journey back in 2014 and has held multiple positions in cultivation, extraction, sales, and management. And Clayton pivoted to the financing side of the industry back in 2021 and has underwritten multiple credit and equity investments for companies across the industry. And just so you guys know, we have guests every Monday. We have an open spot to have a guest correspondent, and today's guest is Mr. Clayton Skulski.
Yeah, that wasn't it either.
Son of a bitch!
Intro there, Jason.
Jesus Christ.
All right. So guys, well, I have an article was published last night, and it's about the recreational marijuana snags to delay opening of Minnesota dispensaries for months. Minnesota recreational marijuana dispensaries were supposed to open sometime in early 2025, but Senator Mark Corrin told 5 Eyewitness News there will likely be significant delays in the process. Corrin said a recent court ruling stopped the issuance of licenses for people who wish to sell and grow marijuana for the adult recreational market until state lawmakers approve rules and policies for the program, which could take months. It's going to be moved out to, in my opinion, it will likely be sometime in 2026, says Corrin. Stephen Egan owns and operates a company called Bella Balami, which consults cannabis sellers and growers. He told 5 Eyewitness News he agrees with Corrin's assessment. There's always some nuances when you're starting new businesses, just like with any other industry, said Egan. So I think it's fair to say that you're not looking at doors opening until the beginning of 2026. Egan said growers have to buy land and build a facility before they can plant marijuana, and the timeline for that is generally 9 to 12 months. Then we're talking, inspections, zoning inspections, building inspections, and all the other stuff that gets added on the back end, said Egan. For now, the only dispensaries allowed to legally sell recreational marijuana are located on tribal lands. Bit of a bummer for the Minnesota market coming online. I was doing some research last week, and it sounded like they were going to start doing kind of the license applications in February, but it sounds like they actually have to do some more legislative work to get everything together before the industry really starts to push forward. Based on our conversation we just had about DoorDash, I mean, I think this is probably pretty great for the hemp industry in Minnesota, which they've been very friendly to, especially the edibles and drinks there, and as well as the tribal nations who are able to sell cannabis. So I think it'll be interesting to see how quickly they're able to get this together. I think it's always so funny when new states come online. And I feel like they just pretend like nobody has ever done this before, even though there are 24 examples that came before them of states that have done this and brought markets to brought adult use markets to fruition. And so it's just kind of one of those. It reminds me of we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas type of kind of thing. But we'll see how it shakes out in Minnesota.
But Minnesota's not too worried about it because they have such a thriving beverage industry going on, and they're just pushing beverages left and right and all these and everywhere you look in Minnesota. That's their number one thing right now.
Which means they're teaching you something, Jason.
What are they teaching me? What are they teaching me?
Well, they're teaching you that category can't be written off by the dinosaurs like you and me who want to roll a number and sit back and puff on flour, because the beverage category cannot be ruled out.
Oh man, you guys. Minnesota's a train wreck, man. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. But shout out to all the native reservations out there that are just out there crushing out there in Minnesota. They're taking everybody to lunch while they're going to continue this process. I imagine, you know what I'm saying, more and more states, and so I don't expect anything to change anytime soon for these guys. Anything to say, Jenny, Yarrow, Jesse?
Way behind time.
Okay, all right. Well, fair enough. Then we are going to keep this train rolling. We are going to roll right into Mr. Jesse Barney. He's the founder of JB Design and does cannabis branding and can help your brand too. That's right, is none other than Mr. Jesse Barney.
What's up, y'all? Good morning. My story comes out of the debrief this morning by a man named Tim McMillan. And the headline is, Mystical Feelings of Awe Amplify Ketamine's Antidepressant Effects, Research Reveals. New research suggests that the profound sense of awe experienced during ketamine treatment may be central to its rapid and lasting antidepressant effects. This finding builds on a previous studies highlighting the role of mystical or altered state experiences in psychedelic therapy's therapeutic potential. A randomized and controlled trial published in Biological Psychiatry Global Open Science examined the psychological dimensions of ketamine's effects. The study included 116 participants comparing ketamine to a saline placebo. Those who received ketamine reported significantly higher scores on the Awe Experience Scale, AWES. I love that, shortly after infusion. Critically, the study found that the degree of awe experienced directly correlated with sustained improvements in depression symptoms as measured by the Montgomery-Åsberg Depression Rating Scale, MADRS, over 5 times points in 30 days. In contrast, general dissociative effects measured by the clinician-administered dissociative state scale, CADS, did not predict long-term antidepressant effects. Participants who reported strong awe-like experiences during treatment were less likely to experience a rapid return of depression, while those who did not feel awe were more prone to relapse. Defined as an emotion elicited by encounters with vastness or novelty that challenge existing mental frameworks, awe has been shown to reduce self-focus and increase connectedness, which is particularly relevant for depression treatment. The study examined 6 subdomains of awe, including connectedness, self-diminishment, mental schema, restructuring or accommodation, and more. Ketamine recipients showed marked increases in all areas, particularly in self-diminishment, aligning with the drug's ability to disrupt entrenched thought patterns. These findings parallel research into classical psychedelics like psilocybin and MDMA, which suggest that mystical type experiences drive their therapeutic effects. A 2023 large-scale study by Ohio State University found that the mental health benefits of psychedelic therapy were directly linked to altered states of consciousness, reinforcing the importance of subjective experience in treatment outcomes. Although ketamine is classified as a dissociative anesthetic rather than a traditional psychedelic, its ability to induce dreamlike dissociative states has drawn comparisons to psychedelic substances. This new research strengthens the argument that psychological effects are just as crucial as neurochemical mechanisms in ketamine's antidepressant potential. The study's findings suggest that enhancing awe during ketamine therapy through guided mindfulness, set and setting techniques, or adjunctive psychotherapy could help sustain its antidepressant effects. This approach mirrors psychedelic therapy strategies where context and mindset shape therapeutic outcomes. While compelling, the study has limitations, including a relatively small homogeneous sample and reliance on self-reported measures. Future research should explore whether awe-inducing benefits persist across diverse populations and integrate objective biomarkers to strengthen findings. As depression rates rise, The need for innovative treatments is more urgent than ever. This study positions awe as a transformative psychological tool, suggesting that integrating awe-inducing practices into therapy could amplify ketamine's benefits, offering a new avenue for mental health care. This is a really cool study. Super stoked to read about it. I did not know about AWES, Oz, and its implications in curing depression or helping with depression. But it's cool that the psychological effects of just inducing awe. And the article I did paraphrase this article because it was like a 12 or a 15-minute read, and that was just too long. So they talked about nature walks and different ways of building set and setting into things that could create awe-inducing experience other than ketamine, which I also thought was interesting. So just a ton of good stuff happening in the psychedelic world as far as helping people with PTSD, depression, addiction. So there's a lot to hope for here and a lot to look forward to here. So I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say.
Interesting, Jesse. Man, you took us down a K-hole, bro.
That's right.
Man, I mean, I know a lot of people that get a lot of therapeutic relief from ketamine, and whether that is a self-induced or clinical induced, because there's a lot of clinics out here, at least in California, that are ketamine clinics, which I always find super interesting. And ketamine is a Schedule III drug too, you guys. Mm-hmm. So you're going to need that DEA license in order to be able to have ketamine. That's what's going to end up happening to weed when it goes to Schedule III.
I think we're just going to see more and more of this entheogenic side of psychedelics, which doesn't get talked about enough. The root word of enthusiasm and entheogen are the same. And entheus is a really interesting concept about becoming aware of divinity and being struck with awe in your experience of life. And its impact on us as humans is showing to have great impact. I mean, to be redundant.
I don't think Jesse knows what he's talking about. The root word of awe is brisket. Isn't it?
Enthusiasm, bro.
No, it at its root is the Latin BBQ, which means to eat slowly cooked smoked meat that falls off the bone.
Yeah,
that's why vegans aren't happy.
I have friends who say that barbecue is spelled SUSHI, and they can't get it out of their heads.
That's pretty funny.
They're missing the fire, that's for sure.
I mean, well, no, because they have that Wagyu beef, you know what I'm saying, that they serve on Hot Rocks, you know what I mean, at the sushi restaurants, you know what I mean. So I understand how they could say that is barbecue. I'm not mad at that.
I want that.
I do want to see where brisket rates on the awe scale, not to diverge from the content of this article.
Well, no, I mean that was part of the article. Was it talked about how there's all these other ways of inducing awe. Food even is one of those ways, like being in wonder and awe of the process of getting food. People who hunt a lot talk about this experience when they hunt of the idea of harvesting an animal. There's a very deep gratitude and a very deep, almost spiritual experience that happens for most hunters. And that awe that's the same thing that they're talking about, and it's antidepressant.
I thought that was a really good part of your article that you shared today. Thank you. Was this idea of set and setting, right? Like it's not just what we put into our bodies to alter our consciousness or perception, but what we're doing concurrently to elevate the potential experience that can create. Yeah.
Interesting.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. You have any thoughts on this, Jenny? Anything?
About fucking buzzkill. You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, while it is helpful in rapid treatment of depression and things like that, this is not something that you should be doing your fucking self, right? Because there are long-term risks. Some of the doctors who were very early on with ketamine treatments in Boulder have now come back and said, hey, wait a minute, there are some long-term side effects. There's liver issues. There's the risk of dependence. I watched somebody like literally had to call 911 for a friend's husband because he'd been He had a problem with one substance, ended up going to a ketamine treatment, getting treatments, whatever. And then he decided that that wasn't enough ketamine. So he started using a ridiculous amount himself. And like, I've never seen somebody that fucked up. I've seen plenty of people in K-holes, but like, this is really, really, it was not a good situation. And if LAPD and Beverly Hills police who see this kind of shit all the time, we're like, yeah, that was fucked up. That was fucked up. So, you know, I think that there's also the risk of memory and cognitive issues. So using these things in a clinical setting definitely mitigates those long-term risks.
Interesting.
1000% agreed. As a psychonaut myself, and having been around the culture of psychedelics for a very, very long time, I have seen ketamine go way too far for way too many people. It's not something to play around with. It's not like mushrooms or LSD or any of these others. It has a very different activation. It has a very different play. It can be unlike MDMA and psilocybin and LSD. It can be addictive, and it gets bad. It can get really bad. So yeah, don't play with this. But in a psychologically sound setting, in a medical setting, with guides and with your therapist and various things like that, that's what it's for. And that's actually what this is talking about too. Like, you want to build an entire experience. If you're really struggling with depression, then you want to have a therapist. And if you're going to do a ketamine treatment, it needs to be in a wonderful place that's full of light and music and helping guide you towards these awe-inducing experiences. That's the whole point. So,
Clayton, have you guys, key investment partners, have you guys invested in any ketamine therapies or ketamine treatment centers?
No, but we've looked at quite a few in Texas, New York. And, you know, I think there's absolutely, like, you know, something to be said for these therapies. I think that I think it's interesting now that like all the drugs we were all told as kids that were like bad are now like the new like mental health, like help you feel better drugs. Having experimented with them is in my youth. I always kind of felt that way. I was like, there's always something more to this experience, right? And like, it was actually like what got me into cannabis when I was a teenager, you know, smoking weed. And I was like, there's something more to this than just like me getting high. Like there's more to this experience that can be helpful. And so, you know, it's definitely something that we at Key Investment Partners have looked into. We haven't made any investments in the space. You know, right now, I think where things kind of stand, I think there's some standardization needed between the practices between these clinics right now. I think everybody is kind of working almost, I don't want to say people who are doing it are test subjects, that's not it, but like each person that does it kind of has their own philosophy behind it, and you can get different qualities of care depending upon where you go and the amount of money that you're willing to put forward with it. So I think small, you know, kind of standardizing through the industry is definitely something that will add value and make it more of an investable space over time. As far as the actual treatments are concerned and using ketamine and psilocybin, LSD, MDMA for mental health, like definitely on board with those being, you know, kind of the future of this mental health and depression, anxiety that we deal with as a society pretty intensely.
Interesting. You
Certainly
guys
better than taking Xanax. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Interesting. You guys are considering throwing some money down the K-hole.
I mean, it's an interesting industry, and you know the effects that people have had from it appear to be very real.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely, that's for sure. I agree with that without a doubt.
You were saying something. I forget what the score is called, but you mentioned it in your article.
He said an awe scale or something like that.
There was another one that.
Oh, there was a few. Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Yeah, there's a scale that they use to like grade people with depression, and
the MADRS.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
The clinics that we've looked into at this point have shown like very real improvements in that scale and how they are, like how patients are feeling and everything. So I think there really is something to it. I think, you know, and hopefully it's something that can actually change the root problem. I think a lot of times, in especially in America, with how we deal with pharmaceuticals, you know, we like to the symptoms. We don't like to treat the actual issue. And so, you know, with psychedelic therapy, I hope that people that are doing it can really get to the root cause of the issues that are making them feel this way, and move forward in a more meaningful way than just trying to mask how they're feeling day to day.
And being named after a root, I will just say that I really appreciated this article about talking about set and setting, because I do believe that that's really important. If you're in a trailer, or a rider, Jenny, but if you're in a trailer taking ketamine and feeling sorry for yourself and eating Twinkies and Ho-Hos, it's probably not going to have some sort of life-inducing experience. And when we talk about set and setting, I think about Mother Nature, which is, I think, God's greatest masterpiece. I think about food, diet, and physical activity. And I think that, like, if I was going to craft a study about the efficacy of some of these drugs, that set and setting, if you have that set and setting minus the drugs, most likely your life is going to become improved anyway. And if you have that set and setting and then you add some of these things in, yeah, it probably has a catalytic event. But I think, you know, I wish we had, you know, our favorite psychedelic background guy, Matthew St. Germain, to wax poetic about psychedelics, because I can't. But I think that set and setting is really crucial, and that there's a lot of wellness and common sense wisdom to just
the setting
out of. Yeah, change your diet.
The setting is important.
Lifestyle,
the setting is important.
Go into a redwood forest, take your shoes off, breathe some good air if you can, and those things in and of themselves, separate from other chemicals or ingesting things, can have a dramatic effect on people's sense of well-being.
Exactly. That's exactly the point, Yarrow, is that the word psychedelic itself literally means mind manifest.
Thought it meant brisket.
Haha, yeah, exactly.
All right, never mind.
So when you talk about nature walks or diet or things of that nature, the level of consciousness that you're manifesting to care for yourself, to really care about the details of all of these things in our life, that is like a psychedelic or a mind manifesting experience. And I think that's missed in the conversation about psychedelics and plant medicines, is that we see these compounds as assistive for these and like the solution, but really they're a lot of times like a switch that's actually turning on what's innate. And there's these normal, natural things, as you just outlined, that they're psychedelic themselves, and taking care of those set and setting elements can be psychedelic itself or entheogenic itself. And just doing that can lift your mood, and doing that daily and consistently, what does it do over time? Well, we know. So thank you for that.
Fair enough. I did not know that that Yarrow was a root. So does that mean that you're the root cause, Yarrow?
Well, actually, it's a medicinal plant, and the stalks were used in the I Ching. The flower was used as a compress. It was called soldier's root.
Soldier's root.
It's a tea. It was the herb that Achilles was dipped in that made him invincible. So it's been used across the world for a variety of medicinal treatments.
Fair enough. Well, on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing, you guys.
Weed for the people.
Yes, that's right. Weed for the people, you guys. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners. Anthony, thank you so much for coming in and doing this, and we apologize for the technical difficulties, but we will be better tomorrow, you guys. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.
Bye, y'all.
Yes.
Bye.
Just the Cloud Media. No, just the Cloud Media. Yep, just the Cloud Media.